Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight, we are going to be talking about those tether lines that dance us. We almost feel like one of those puppeteers, a marionette. Who's controlling me? What am I controlling? Who's on stage? What is the story about? It's all about life. How are we tethered? Are we tethered to the cosmos? Are we tethered to our jobs, our relationships, perhaps our past lives? Or are we tethered to our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, our beliefs, or that which we claim is the truth? Many tether lines these days. How do we say? Can we see them? Can we become aware of them? How can we let a few of them go, reframe others, and still others say, that's not a part of me? I can say goodbye and recreate a new sense of self. That's what we'll be talking about today. Codependent Discovery and Recovery 2.0, a holistic approach to healing and freeing yourself with Mary Joye. It's going to be a pleasure to talk to Mary because what I loved about the title of her book is Discovery. Discovery and awareness. Isn't that what it's all about? It's not just always about fixing something we think is wrong, laying ourselves out, giving our minds to our therapist, our bodies to our doctors, and our soul to the priest and saying, here, fix me, give me the magic, whatever, and I'll go about my day. It's about becoming a discovery and awareness. What is going on around you? Where are you today? And what's really pulling your strings? Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Dr. Jeanette. It's a pleasure to serve you and talk to you and help your audience with anyone who may need this information we're going to impart to them.
Such a great time to have you today. Don't you think many people will say, I really have been feeling like I'm being pulled in so many different directions, like a puppeteer and a puppet. And we say, well, what are the strings, right?
Oh, yes. And there are so many lengths and circumferences of strings. Some are strings, some are little pieces of thread, some are cables that are connected to other people. We just have to be aware of them and how to keep ourselves attached to good people and unattached from people who are toxic for us. It's a delicate dance, to be sure.
Right, because if you really think about it, those tether lines that we have, as now we are in the year 2022, everyone knows about energy. Everybody knows about their soul, what we're giving, taking, receiving from everything around us. We know that someone feels good or doesn't feel good. We're becoming more aware. And really, when you think of the tether lines, you could almost think of it as, is it a free-flowing energy between two people? Or perhaps it's this like fire energy at one end. Perhaps It's just someone's just sucking the life out of you with one of their tether lines. Many times people use the words and they don't even realize that's actually what they are feeling, what they are sensing, and what's coming up inside of them. How many times, I have said it many times over the decades, these people are sucking the life out of me, Don't you think that we have to be in awareness now what's coming up with our words and to use words?
Yes. And we notice, for many years people have used the phrase toxic relationships. And then science backs it up, and it truly does create a toxic bond because when you're around people who you call toxic, they're releasing adrenaline and cortisol and all these stress hormones that are terrible for your immune system. And they're taking away the serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin that you need. Oxytocin is the trust hormone. And so it truly is toxic to be around people who make you feel horrible about yourself or who have an agenda for you that doesn't line up with where you are in life. And that's where you can become codependent, because you kind of lose yourself doing what other people want you to do instead of what your calling is.
It's like they are breathing fire all the time, saying this is the world, and it's this, and this. It's horrible, it's wrong, it's bad, it's blah, 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 blah. And when they come around you, and we think of just as empaths, you and I were sharing before, or anyone, whatever type person you might be or soul, you're feeling that. These people come along, they start sucking it out of you because they don't want you to have the good in you. And they replace it and spew upon you their negativity.
Yes.
And that's where that negativity starts to come, you know. And it's almost as if the circle starts to dim. It's almost as if you consistently keep blowing on a candle. It's eventually going to go out, you know. And many people feel that. And it's like, someone has said to me, they were talking one time, and they said, you can't make something from nothing. And I'm going, but you can. There's energy in the world there. You can. It's a hard road, but you can. So I think...
Yes, you can. You actually can.
Yeah. Sometimes people will say that I'm in a really bad place and there's no hope for me. Don't you think that that's a very first step with working with people on the codependent discovery path, is to say there is always a spark. That's what they want to hear.
And I seek to find it. I do seek to find their spark of hope. It's somewhere. And usually I start in very odd ways. I'm having them make lists and telling me about themselves, and when I'm taking notes, they think I'm just taking notes, but I'm extracting the truth of what they really do want from hearing what they don't want. In their complaints, I am reconstructing and rewriting the narrative of their life. So that should tell people right there, you can make something out of nothing, because I am taking their negative vortex of energy that they're feeling from other people and having the life sucked out of them and creating a new life for them on paper. And at the end of the session, I hand that to them, and it's always doable. So I am creating something for them out of nothing, and practical ways to apply it. I mean, I guess a really good, for those, anyone out there who's a little skeptical about you can make something out of nothing, just pick up any book. That was just an idea in someone's head that somebody put on tangible paper. It is something out of nothing. Any book, any piece of music, it's something out of nothing. And, I used to be a songwriter, so I really get the concept of something out of nothing.
Right.
And wasn't the Seinfeld show all about nothing? So even just, the humorous part of it, yes, we can create many things out of what feels like nothing, but everything's going on when no thing seems to be going on. But there's a lot going on in everyone. So hopefully people will understand that concept and start believing something better for themselves, for whatever they want, because codependents don't believe their lives should be better. They believe everyone else's life should be better, which is fine. It's wonderful to feel that way, to have empathy toward others, but to apply that back to yourself so you can have a cycle and flow of giving and receiving instead of just giving and giving till you give out.
Right. Because I think sometimes people then start building up a wall. They say, I'm going to choose to not engage. But in essence, when you're choosing to not engage, sometimes that's building an armor. And sometimes, when you build up that armor even bigger, or you get a sense of other mental health things. We say, am I starting to feel I'm better than them? I'm not good. They're good. I'm good. They're wrong. Or you start this really division of separation. Even in the spiritual community, I hear a lot of people say, I see that. Oh, I'm going to... They judge right instantly in their thoughts, and then they say, I'm going to send them white light energy. Instead of like, you can keep your white light energy, honey, I don't need it. Don't cast on me kind of idea.
Yes.
And I think
it's like an empathic cancel culture. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. It's like an empathic cancel culture, which is an oxymoron to have an empath cancel culture.
Right. And it's sort of like, where is all that coming from. And I think that's sort of the idea is that we're still trying to maneuver and trying to find ourselves in this decade that we're in because we're using the old words, the old tools, the old ways of doing instead of letting the door slam behind us and create from the unknown. That's a huge different place. But don't you think, Mary, that once you do that, that door slams behind you? I mean, it is like, oh, man, I don't know where I am, who I am, what I'm doing, or where I am going. And you live that every day, and you know what? You sometimes don't need to know who you are, where you're going, or what you're doing. You just need to be in presence for that day. Don't you think?
Yes. Absolutely. In fact, that's at the end of every chapter of the book I wrote, and I did this with my own healing. I was obviously recovering codependent because why would you write a book if you weren't? because it's a very difficult subject to approach and to heal from. But I was making lists when I was severely codependent of things I didn't want, and that's when I discovered, I said, I'll just write over here what I do want. Right. And at the end of every chapter is what you don't want, and then at the end of the book, they will be closing their own door because they're going to take the list that they made on the left of what they don't want, and then they're going to burn it if they have a place to burn it, like a phoenix, like to come up from the ashes. They're going to get beauty, and then they're going to have their own self-help book, knowing what they do want, just from realizing and being self-aware of what they don't want. So many law of attraction things say you can't focus on what you don't want. I'm not asking people to focus on it. I'm just asking them to, I make things rhyme because I used to be a songwriter, but you embrace the negativity because it's there. You can't deny it's there, like grief. You can't deny yourself grief or it'll never get better.
Right.
So you embrace the negativity and then you replace it with what you do want. And then here's the miracle part. It erases itself. So then you can make nothing out of something. What used to be for you that was a negative world is now the opposite of what we just talked about. That door is shut. It can't be reopened. Once you start doing the embracing and replacing with positivity, the mind will erase the past. It will be a part of your story, but it won't be your destiny. It will be a piece of your history, but not where you're headed. It's like the rear view mirror and the windshield. The rear view mirror is very small and for reference only, but the windshield is huge, and to just keep driving forward and to be present.
Yeah.
Hopefully that made sense to someone.
Yeah, I think it's very scary sometimes to people to say to live in the unknown. But in essence, when you take and you live in a dark place, and you say, now you want me to live in a light place, and they try to bring themselves into that light place, but then the darkness still shows up again. And I'll say, we are really now in a very unique kind of existence. We want to be in a certain essence and time. We want to feel healed. We want to feel good. We want to feel joy. You know, and then when the darkness shows up, we say, oh, well, I guess my job isn't done, or I did something wrong, or whatever that might be. When in essence, truly, Mary, what we're talking about is we're living in an ebb and flow right now. If you think you got it handled, honey, you just stand there and breathe for a minute because it's coming. The ups and downs are going to be there. And to be able to accept that, even when you're breaking tether lines, something else may come along and stick on your butt. You know what I mean? Or something may pull you back. And a lot of times people will say, you know, that whole 10-step forward, 100-step back, whatever that is. But if we could understand that energy ebbs and flows also as it passes through transmissions, so too can we understand that if we are soul beings, if we are humans in this time right now, we are ebbing and flowing right now. We clean up some energy. We're empaths. We do good spots, you know. Then we turn around. Someone about wants to take us out again, and we're going, oh, good, okay, more work to do, you know. And then we work on that or whatever because we're working on it within ourselves and we're working on it within others. So if someone is like, even we see it with addiction, in recovery, they may try 5, 6, 7, 8, 20 times to be able to get there. Some get there in this lifetime, some don't. But maybe they did their work along the way. Maybe their work is just different than yours, but yet we want to turn around and judge them all the time. Don't you think people that are having issues when they come to you say, it's the judgment right now that's my biggest deal?
Oh, judging is one of the most, again, I'm going to use the word toxic. It is one of the most toxic emotions. I used to keep a gavel. In fact, I'm going to get a new one. I used to keep a gavel underneath my chair in my office, and when I heard people judging themselves, I would pull it out, because just the image of a gavel makes people recoil. And it does. And when I say, oh, it sounds like you're judging yourself, because that gavel, we all need to take the invisible gavels out of our hand, especially towards ourselves. Because when we judge other people, usually we're judging something in ourselves that is set off by that other person. We just have to be, again, very self-aware. What is it in me that is allowing a negative charge from that person to come on me? So it's more of an observation. If you can change judgment to observation, instead of saying that person's just so mean, that's a judgment. You say that person acts mean, but perhaps there's something else going on that I don't know about. One's an observation, and it takes all the negativity off of it, and it detaches you from anything that they might have that could be negative towards you. It's like a negative charge. Right. You don't have to accept that negative charge. You can be in the alternating current. That's why in electricity. Right. I used to be a lighting design major, so light really pierces darkness, but we have alternating current. You can't plug anything into direct current. It will blow up. You have to keep things flowing. Electricity needs to flow and alternate, and that's the same thing with people. We have to flow and alternate, and if somebody's kind of making your light bulb dim, you might want to step back and say, okay, I need to disconnect from this person for a while until I can get my light back. So, or sometimes it's forever. That person will break the light bulb if you're not careful. And it's who we allow in and out. Boundaries are more about the gate than they are about the fence and the wall, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So to your point, yes. I hope this is helping people understand that you really just can't build a wall. That in itself that's not really a choice to go no contact. To say, I'm going to no contact that person. You're still attached to them emotionally. There's still an emotional attachment. That's what you need to work on before you actually do detach from anyone, is to become indifferent to their harm. And then you can walk away instead of building a wall. It's much more powerful to be peaceful and walk away than to build a wall and, block and all the terms we use on our cell phones, block people and no contact. Yes, those things are all born of anger and fear. And you can say, I just lovingly release that. I call it releasing them back to the wild. Like if you've been narcissistically abused, just release that person back to the wild. You're going to step back in a safe place and release them back out into the world. It's their choice, and it's not your job to fix it.
And I think,
or to be harmed.
But I think also to the idea, Mary, is that other people are working on their stuff too. Just because someone is having all of that, whatever that is, they may be working on theirs. It may not just be that you're in a different space and time and they're in a different space and time. So I always tell people, when you see it coming, in other words, their face is getting red and they're starting to spit when they talk, I always say, just turn to the side and let it go by. Because sometimes sometimes we have this thing where we want to let it come at us because we want to be the receiver of it, and we feel it and we own it. And we feel hurt and broken. But if you just turn to this, literally physically turn your body to the side and let it pass by, it doesn't stick on you. It isn't yours, but you're allowing them to be in their own space and time. Then you can choose later and say, for my own self, maybe let's have less of a conversation next time. Let's only talk for 5 minutes. Let's talk on the phone or whatever it is. And you can always still practice turning to the side and letting it go by. Eventually, when their fountain is done, right? This is how empaths work. When their fountain is done and they've all disputed all that, then they want to know how you're doing. How did you do it? How did you listen to me when I was really angry and everything? And the answer was, I just turned to the side in allowance and grace.
I didn't take it in.
And let it pass by. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, because I had the beautiful physical image. That is exactly what animals do. They do not expose their underbelly. So when you turn to the side, you're just giving people your your arm and leg bone, which are pretty darn strong, but if you turn to the front, you're exposing your vital organs and your heart and your lungs and your throat, all the things that you would, in actual battle, you would not want exposed. So that's a beautiful concept. Just turn to the side. It's like a tornado. You run perpendicular to them. You don't run away from them. You run perpendicular. Right. You turn to the side. Beautiful, yeah. Dr. Jeanette. Thank you. What a lovely concept.
Well, because then I think what happens is that we don't end up with a world of broken people. Because, when we turn around and we want to put labels, well, you have this mental health thing, you have that one, you have this label, you're this, you're that, whatever. Then we end up with more broken people than we can shake a stick at. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like everybody's broken. And what we want to do is if we can give techniques, which I think your book really does, Codependent Discovery and Recovery 2.0, you give a lot of techniques and tools so that others can say, I'm going to work on it for me. And when I encounter it in someone else, I'm not going to try to fix them or keep telling them how to do it or what to do it. I'm just going to turn to the side and let them find their way, and then they will come and they will ask. And when they're ready, they show up. Right?
Correct.
Isn't that what you want it to be?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I put meditations at the end of every chapter, because we do the spirit work, and you can access them on YouTube. You don't even have to read them. You just turn on YouTube and shut your eyes, and it's read for you and done for you. I try to make things very easy for people, because people are making some spiritual things just so complex and so difficult. Just what you said, just be present, be in the moment. Live a little bit forward. We all have to live a little bit forward, kind of like driving a car. We all have to, drive about 10 cars ahead, but you can't drive too far ahead, and you can't keep looking behind. So, yes, no, you don't have to fix anyone. And when you have broken people tend to cut one another, like the shards of glass. Yeah. They tend to do that when they get in the same vicinity. And some people really there aren't really toxic people. I want to let the listeners know that you can't really judge people for being toxic. They just might not be right for you. You can't say the person is toxic. The relationship may be toxic. It's not that they're not a good person. They're just not good for you. And how you feel about you when you're around someone is so much more important than how you think they feel about you, which is what someone who's a codependent and even an empath will do, because they're feeling everyone else's feelings and not checking in with themselves and checking in with their bodies and making that light around them. I call it tighter and brighter. You just kind of get your light and your energy pulled in tighter and brighter, and start paying attention to your tension, and you can shift your intention when you do that, and then with that body, mind, spirit connection. So thank you for allowing me to share that. That's the passion with me, that there's a body, a mind, and a spirit to this. Not just codependency, but to everything in life. There's that trinity that will collapse if one side of that gets broken. They all have to work together.
Because also, too, when you start working on yourself and others are around you, they've always been feeding the fire, so to speak. Everybody and everything supports you in the place you're in. In other words, someone cooks, someone cleans, someone buys, someone does this, someone does that. It's all there. But when you start to say, I want a little change or a little bit shift, because that tether line is feeling like it's becoming a noose around my neck, that's when you turn to the side again and let it go by. But if you think about it, the other person is feeling that disconnect also. So you may be working on yourself, and there's going to be a lot more coming at you because you're disconnecting from them. And I always think of it as an octopus, and you pulled his suction cups off, and what happens is just flailing in the air. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to exist. They don't know how to this, that, or the other. So you may be saying, man, that person's getting crazy, or they're da-da-da-da-da-da, when in essence they're just flying away because the source that you were also plugged into them is no longer there. So in essence, sometimes people say, we're just doing it for myself. I want to heal because of that. We have to think about the other people around us too, because as we disconnect, they need to be in their own space and time too, but you need to notice how you may have been affecting them and how they're going to have to now find a place and time or find someone else to plug into. And that's, that's how we create in the world. That's how we are all connected. We want to think that we live in a silo world and going to take care of ourselves, but it truly is not really working that way. We are all really connected. So don't you think that that's what I said before about, we don't want to leave a lot of broken, flailing octopuses out there, you know what I mean? We want to be able to care and nourish along the way, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's compassion, which we all need more of. And I think COVID and social distance taught us that we are definitely wired to be in relationship with people because it made things very tense. But if your compassion turns to a compulsion to help people who will harm you, then that's where it's codependent. But if you're compassionate, by all means, keep being compassionate and caring and loving. And you'll know if you're giving until you give out, because I don't use the word enabling. I don't like the term codependent enabler. Again, it's a judgment. It's blaming the codependent for the other person's bad behavior. You're disabling that person, just like you said. You're disabling that person from facing their own fears, needs, work, their own trinity work, their own body, mind, spirit work. You're disabling them from that. You're not enabling them. You're disabling. So it's releasing them, just what you said, just releasing that octopus back to the water.
Yeah.
You go back to the water. You don't suck the life out of me. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also, too, the idea is let's talk about generations, because you and I are older. A lot of our generations, our parents, our grandparents, even our generation, when you talk about the word trauma or really a lot of problems and a lot of hurts and pains and deep and suffering and all that stuff, find me someone who hasn't been in that generation. They came off of the wars. They came off of the Depression.
Yes,
that got carried forward. So for us to look back and say, oh, well, you need to change now, or wag the finger at people from the past or who are older and say all of a sudden now you need to be this, that, or the other, that's very dehumanizing in a way, because their human essence has a history. So in essence, truly what we're saying is that if someone is an enabler and they're in their 70s and 80s or whatever, you kind of just have to honor and respect the time. You need to still keep yourself in a healthy place and create that. And you don't need to engage within that. What's really difficult...
No, you really don't.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult in this year in time, 2022, because what we're noticing is now there are a lot of elders who have really had very difficult and hard lives, and they're ready to transition on. There's a generation of 40s, 50s, and 60s where we were the ones that have been doing a lot of the transformation and transfiguration work. But then there's generations that are younger, and they're not even aware of anything that we have been through, nor are they carrying the imprints of the old. They are really, truly new souls that are going to create and birth the new earth. But if you think of it that way, you say, wow, I can feel the tug, pick the generation you're in, and then figure out how to be the best person you are in that space and time. Because you're not going to be a new soul like a child is, no matter how hard you try, but you can alter and affect change within the space and time you're in. So I think that's how we're really asking, because really, when a lot of people say, I'm in awareness that all of that hard stuff happened, but I really want to just improve my quality of life, isn't that a kinder way of honoring who you are versus saying, I need to be this other thing that I see that's in the world around me right now, and feeling you never will be? Absolutely. You said it so eloquently and elegantly. Yes. You do have to honor where you are. There's a book called The Four Agreements, and there are agreements you make with yourself, and one of them is, the last agreement, in fact, is always do your best. And the chuckle to that is, we are all doing our best on any given day, and to go easier on ourselves and realize that even your worst day, you might still be doing your best. If you have a horrible day and you just get up and take a shower and go to work because you have to put food on the table for your family, and still you're miserable, that's your best for that day. So everyone needs to go easier on themselves
and lighten up with themselves and on other people, no one can understand what anyone else is really going through. I always say trauma is not a competition. Trauma is absolutely not a competition. You can't one-up a trauma. Trauma is trauma, and different people act differently to it. So to allow people that are not resilient to trauma to do the best they can, and people who are resilient to trauma do never speak the words, just get over it. Yeah. That is a very painful thing to speak to someone, because it's not as easy as you might think, and it may seem small to you, but it's just their journey, and you can't judge it. You just have to be kind to them, and kindness is, well, it is the elixir for so many things.
Well, in closing, Mary, I want to talk about this too. Many people have said, I've done something wrong in my past, or it's felt wrong. Many people are quick to tell me I did it wrong, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, whatever it might be. And how many of us have heard that? I would say everybody has heard that sometime in their life.
Yes, or said it, yes.
Right, correct, or said it, you're right. And the idea is that, can we say I'm still okay? Because there are so many out there that are willing to say you've done it wrong and to put it down and to continue, not even to suck the life out of us, but to actually squash us. And if we are still feeling that that is the best that we could do today, then that's the best we could do today. I think it's so disheartening. It seems as if it's disheartening because, and that's a good word, because the heart is really something that should be nourished. And how can it be? It needs to be nourished by sometimes people, places, things, nature, everything, energy, whatever. And if it can just understand that your heart can find it in different places, those people out there that are seeming to dishearten or to take you out, so to speak. Many people use that word too. They're out to take me out.
Yes.
Even in the spiritual community, someone's out to take me out, and find your energy for your heart in a different way. Those things start to drift away. So don't you think that when people start to drift away, you could say, thank you so much for co-piloting in my life, because those experiences were necessary. So many people want to go back at their back and their life and say, it never happened, and let's erase it. I made peace with it. I said my forgiveness. I'm good, blah, da, 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 da. But in essence, it's still there somehow, some way.
And I'm not really sure that people can do things that, we can do things that are wrong according to a moral compass, but if you're learning from your mistakes and you're not, you're not a sociopath and you're intending with malice, intent, and forethought to do harm, very different concept. But if you do something you consider wrong in your moral compass, the way you can get yourself back to true north is to, there's my throat, somebody needs to hear this, because that's what always happens in the spirit. When that happens in the spirit, when you've got something important to say. But you find your true north by stopping, because you can't keep walking when you're lost. If you feel like you've done something wrong and you feel lost, to get that true north back and get your compass back, you have to say, okay, what did I learn from that moving forward? I'm not going to take another step in my life until I get the message and the lesson, because it's in there. It's in every mistake we make. That way they're not really mistakes, they're learning experiences, because we never learn from what we do right. We just praise ourselves for what we do right. Wow, I did that right. That's not going to teach you anything. Not that you can't learn from what you do right, trial and error. But yes, so again, I just feel somebody out there needs to ease off of themselves about what they did wrong. Just lift yourself up and say, what I've learned from that, and what did it teach me? Or even if someone is, if you're married to someone who's awful, as I've told in my book, I had to disclose what I did wrong for 20 years, and it was difficult to do that. But I learned so much from that relationship to help other people not stay in them. I learned to listen to myself. I said, all these beautiful lessons I learned from all these horrific circumstances, wonderful and horrible happen simultaneously in our lives. We can't separate them. People try to, but you can't. And it's simultaneous. That is the story of life. It's darkness and light coexisting in the same space. So when you learn from those dark moments.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I think also, too, when you think about the co-pilot thing, is that everybody is together on a walk. In other words, they found you and you found them, and you're walking together, irregardless of what the story is about. So in essence, really, sometimes people will struggle and they'll say, well, what is it about it? Sometimes it's just about, hey, we walked each other through hell. Did you find that? Isn't that really cool? Because you know what?
Yes.
Without it, we may not be here breathing today. So in essence,
absolutely,
no matter how horrific it was, how wrong or whatever it might have been, or whatever words you want to tack onto it, it's still about giving love to the human experience, because the human experience is something that, if you ever sit down and write it, it's incredible, and when you can't even wrap your arms around it, don't you think?
Absolutely. And, your GPS does not say, you took a wrong turn. It doesn't yell at you. It just says, recalculating.
Right.
It just gets you back on course. So hopefully people will get back on course with their lives and realize that they are in a time and space where they are for a reason. And there are a bunch of wonderful co-pilots out there. I love that example. And because, I have had a lot of pilots in my life for some reason. I've just known many. And it's not just an altitude meter they have in planes. They call them an attitude meter. There's an attitude meter on an instrument panel, and it's where you are in relation to the horizon. So, changing your attitude and changing your perspective and your horizon, because it changes everything. So be kind to yourself wherever you are and whoever you are. Be kind to yourself today. That is, to have self-compassion is the best way to have compassion for other people. And thank you, Dr. Jeanette, for allowing me to share today.
What's so funny, Mary, I'll tell you this in closing, is that just as you were saying that, I had a vision that when you said about you had some pilots instead of co-pilots, and I was out on the wing, holding onto the wing, and they were allowing me to fly free on the wing. And I was thinking, oh, isn't that cool? Even though they might have been the pilot, they allowed me to see myself free of that. And wouldn't that be a cool place to be, too?
Yes, my dad's best friend was a pilot, and all planes have two yokes in them. What you might call them steering wheels, but they're actually called yokes. And the captain, the co-pilot, they have equal ability to fly that plane.
Right.
No one has they have two sets of instruments, and they're there to help each other. It's not that it's the way they use them. So I love that you made that metaphor, because it's one I actually used in my book about things pilots teach us, because I've had a lot of pilots in my life, and one of the best ones that I learned from a female pilot who flew in World War II for Women's Air Service Patrol was Dora Doherty. And she said, honey, you have to let people be themselves, and you've got to be yourself too. And that's pretty much it, isn't it, Dr. Jeanette? Just allow people to be themselves and to embrace them for their humanity.
Right. And just because, also, too, we had said, there's many times people will say, I'm healed, I figured it out, I'm good, I'm this, whatever. And they want to go out and prophesize and tell other people how to, quote, do it. When in essence, when you get to it, the really best place to be is, some people will say that I'm a door opener. I just open the door. If you choose to go in it or not go in it, that's up to you. Or essence, I'm just here to shine your own presence. If that is as simple as our life is going to be, how do we get it so messed up, It's sort of like, man, I am just craving that day where it will come to that. But in essence, we are getting there. So don't fret, because if you say, well, I can't get there, believe me, if you turn to the left and turn to the right, they can't get there either. So we're kind of all in this abyss right now. And to understand that 2022 is an abyss. It is a time where people are disconnecting, reconnecting, creating, releasing, transforming. So if you feel like you're like spinning out of the spin cycle in your washer, say yes. But we all are. And to understand that and be okay with that, but just reach out for support. That's really what we're asking, yes?
Yes. it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. It takes more strength to ask for help than to deny it. So thank you, Dr. Jeanette. Oh, I'm just so grateful to share with you. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Well, it's great to have you. Mary, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
They can find the book. It's titled Codependent Discovery and Recovery 2.0, A Holistic Approach to Healing and Freeing Yourself. That's wherever books are sold, or Amazon, BAM, Books A Million, and Indie Books, anywhere you would buy a book. But my counseling practice is in Florida, and winterhavencounseling.com is how you can reach out to me personally.
Very
good.
And
I wish everyone well out there that is starting on 2022. We're all kind of emerging from a state of emergency because of COVID. We've had this pandemic that has given us all some form of trauma symptoms, and kindness is going to be of the essence because we're all trying to get our trust hormones back and to get connectivity back. So hopefully this will help people, not just this book, but this conversation will help people to realize that we're really all doing the best we can, and to give each other breaks.
Yeah. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you'd like more information about Mary Joye, her book, Codependent Discovery and Recovery 2.0, please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website for more information. It truly is about being able to say, how can I navigate my days today? I'm no longer interested in the old beliefs and truths. I don't think that those stories are serving me today. And how can I create a new space and time, a soft place to land, and be able to pull out some new tools to see how it can explore what's coming forth in this world. If you'd like more information, I offer many sessions. On the bottom of today's show page, go directly to my website for more information and to access a lot of free information. There's books and articles and many things that may help guide you and open the door to your own creation. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr.jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.